All right, here we go.
All right, we live?
Well, we're live. Hey, so everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 2.
Wow.
And this is a guest that I've been trying to get on here for a long time.
Wow.
I mean, he had to download apps, he had to download a new internet browser. like, I've been trying hard to get this dude. So this is Ryan Longenette. Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Colby. For those of you who want some behind-the-scenes information, it took me about 45 minutes to download this, and he was trying to help me through it. Apparently, Firefox doesn't exist anymore.
Bro, I'm not joking. For the people who are listening to this, when you said the word Firefox, that's the hardest I've laughed in a long time. I've never heard that literally since I was in high school, probably.
That's bad.
Gosh. Okay. So this is the Rugged Horizon podcast. The reason for the Rugged Horizon is just kind of seeing how people became who they are on this rugged horizon or throughout this life. So real quick, everybody who comes on the podcast gets an introduction. Okay. So I have a few things here that I researched about you, Ryan. I just want to introduce you so the people listening know a little bit about you.
Okay.
So you're a counselor. Mm-hmm. You are a husband of 2 children, mm-hmm. A father, mm-hmm. Author of 2 books. Yes. A lot of people probably don't know that about you.
Yep.
Very good books. I've read both of them. Triathlon athlete.
Yep.
Christian. Mm-hmm. You're the assistant professor / drug and alcohol program director. Did I get that right?
You got it
right. You are here's a couple that I thought of that are pretty interesting. You are the 2nd place finisher at the Sherwood Lake Triathlon. Is that did I get that correct?
You got it.
Behind Drew, I don't remember his last name, to be honest with you.
He smoked me.
He did smoke you. You had him in the water, but yeah, he got you in the bike.
Yeah,
here, last couple. So you are the assistant cross-country coach for Greenbrier West High School.
Yes, that is true. I was.
In 2014 or 2015.
Yep.
And you were the first and only ever, I've researched it, you were the first and only ever swim coach in Raynell, West Virginia.
Raynell Sea Cows.
The Raynell Sea Cows, that's correct. So a couple other ones, just, you were on Young Life staff. You're I would consider you a movie savant. You know more about movies than anybody that I know. And then this is a deep one. This is deep in the chest, okay, that I had to go and search for. I don't even know if you may remember this. You are a Greenbrier Hotel, the famous Greenbrier Resort Hotel model. Do you remember this?
2014.
You modeled a bunch of clothing at the Greenbrier Resort.
Yep, I do remember that. That was about 30 pounds ago.
a lot of donuts.
It was about 600 donuts ago.
Yeah. So that's just a little intro. But before we were hopping on this call, you said you had a couple questions that you wanted to bring to the podcast before we kind of get into things. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know what your format is, but I honestly, so the name of this podcast is Rugged Frontier Horizon. Get it right.
That's
my fault. So I assume that part of what you were doing is just kind of understanding life, being real, things like that.
We'll have our part for that here in a little bit. Okay. But yeah, that's the gist of it.
So I'm always trying to understand life. I'm always I want to be a student of life, and there's a lot of things that I in my age I probably should understand, but I don't understand.
Interesting.
And the question that has been coming up in my head probably the last year or so, all of 2024, was how do I navigate relationships with people? Where do I rank relationships with people? Now that I'm a father of 2 kids, obviously I've been a husband for over 10 years. I'm trying to understand where I put people in my life, and what is my responsibility towards them. Okay, so let me explain where this is coming from.
Sure.
You know, everyone's always on a quest to find their people, right? Work, friends, family. Who are the people that are really in your corner? And you know, who are the people that when you're broken down 2 hours down the road, like, yeah, I'm gonna call them and they're gonna come get me, and it's not gonna be like an IOU one. It's just like that's just who they are. Like that's like who, I'm always on a quest to find out who are my people, right? And you know, a lot of people are like, well, that's easy, that's family, right? And it's like, well, a lot of people don't have that.
Sure.
And it's like, well, maybe it's your friends, and it's like, okay, but I feel like I have friends who I can't really ask or have serious conversations with, or like share life struggles with, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is my you know, what makes my people my people. And
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go for it.
so I've kind of broken down. This is a conversation. I have not figured this out. But
Yeah.
here's the things that here's the three categories I have in my head: family, friends, neighbors. Neighbors just is not like the conventional, you know, next door. It's like acquaintance.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I meet someone and when I have someone in my life, who are they? Are they family? By the way, family does not necessarily mean blood, right?
Sure.
So, family, friends, neighbors. And I'm trying to categorize that. And as I go through life, I'm trying to ask myself the question, who is this person in my life? And then what is my responsibility to them? Does
Sure.
that make
So,
sense?
so with those three ranking systems, obviously, you would start kind of with a wider lens. So it would be like neighbors, out here, and then maybe, you know, family or, obviously there's a ranking system, right? Like how do you kind of distinguish, you know, maybe people you trust more or,
That's the discussion I want to have is what's the criteria for this, right?
yeah, I mean, this obviously, like you said, this is a great conversation to have. My first thought goes to, I remember, I went and saw a counselor for a while, and I remember her telling me this one time, you know, people in relationships, people have different friends or family, like you've said, neighbors, and you really have to. Well, there's two examples. One is like you think of food that you eat. You think of let's say salad and pizza. So if you compare people to salad and pizza, so let's say Ryan, you're a salad for me. So maybe I don't have the most fun with you, or maybe I don't have the most uplifting time with you than compared to other people, but you're a salad. And if the more I take you in, it's good for me. It's good that I'm hanging out with you because you're trustworthy, because you're there when I need you. If I call you and, if I'm broken down, like you'll do everything you can to go and help me. But then there's, on the flip side, there's those people who are pizza, where it's like, when I'm with you, it's fun. And it's, I can talk about sports, or we can go watch movies, and we can just have a really fun time. But maybe I don't trust you, or maybe I don't trust you enough to share hard things in my life, or but they're fun people to be around. And the other thing that kind of came up in my head was I heard, like, you think of a bullseye, that you're for archery or whatever you're shooting, and like the further out you get, like, for a bullseye, the further out is the less points, and you get closer to the middle and it's more points. So like the further out are, maybe friends or family or neighbors who maybe you don't trust, or maybe you don't aren't very close with. And then, as you move closer to the middle of that bullseye, people are going to, that number is going to get smaller and smaller. Maybe you only have a couple, like 2 or 3, maybe people in the middle that, you really, really trust. And then you kind of break out to the next category where it's like, hey, I trust you and I feel close to you, but not as much as these people. Like, and you can just kind of break out. And like you said, this is a conversation, obviously, but I don't know if you have any other thoughts
No, I love
with
that.
this, or if maybe you've
The
gotten
pizza salad
somewhere.
analogy, I think, is perfect. That definitely helps. Um, I think where some of this, the categories can be misleading, right? Because when I'm talking about like family, it doesn't have to be blood. And when I talk about neighbors, it doesn't have to be people in your neighborhood. But like, I'll tell you where kind of some of this came from. This question, at least.
Okay.
There's always people coming in and out of your life, and that's fine and good, and you're just trying to determine where they fit. And one thing I'm finding is there were people in my life who, like, I I could laugh with, but that I couldn't cry with.
Hmm.
And there were people in my life that, like, I could laugh with, and I always ask the question, like, if I win the lottery today, I win just a huge amount of money. Like,
Yeah.
would that person celebrate me or be
Hmm.
happy for me? Or would that person say, must be nice? They don't do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, and I've had that happen to me a lot, where it's like, you can't celebrate my wins
Yeah.
because of how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
But like, for some reason you can laugh with me and we can be cool, but like, whenever something good happens, like, you're not really there.
Hmm.
And to me, I don't know where this all sorts in this, but that's my first question when I'm sorting someone in my life right now is, when something good happens, are they like, yeah, that's awesome, slap hands, let's go,
Right.
or are they like, I don't, does that make sense?
No, I mean, that totally makes sense. And as you have 2 kids, we're expecting our second one as well. I think it adds a dynamic too, because with kids, obviously, you don't have as much time as you once did when you could just run around and do whatever. So the people that you're really trying to figure out is, I'm speaking from my life, the people that I'm really trying to be like, okay, these are like my people, that I can count on and I want to be around
Right.
with. Like, it gets a little harder too, because it kind of seems sometimes like, and I get it. Like you said it perfectly, life happens and people go their opposite ways and do their own things. I get it. But at the end of the day, you really find out who like sticks around, and like
Right.
who kind of are always behind you and supportive of you. And, when you were talking about people who may not be, supportive, or maybe jealous of you when good things happen to you, it almost puts like a blockage in your heart, of just like, oh, well, that's not the response that I like needed
Yeah.
as a friend.
Yeah.
So it almost creates like a blockage in your relationship too, where it's like, I'm going to be a little hesitant next time that good
Exactly.
things happen to me to come to
Well,
you.
it stunts what you can communicate with them, right? Because if something good happens to you, then it's like, I'm not going to go to them to celebrate. So,
Yep.
so that's my first criteria for, you're not going past the neighbor stage if you can't celebrate me,
Okay.
right?
So that's a prerequisite to get into maybe one of your inner
Like,
type
like
circles
what,
where it's
what I
like,
consider to be friends.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
okay. Yeah. So they need to be able to be unselfish, with you in
You got to
ways.
celebrate wins.
Yeah,
You got to celebrate the other person's wins, right?
for
Like,
sure. No, that makes total
yeah, you got
sense.
to want good for me, right? And I have to want good for you.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, that's relationship 101, right?
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
it's gotta go both
Right.
ways.
So you're never going to cross into the friend threshold if in my mind you can't celebrate me, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And then so my next question is, I'm just kind of sorting through this, right? So
sure.
I have a lot of neighbors, I have a few friends, and I have very small amounts of family, what I consider, right? My other criteria that kind of brings me to the next level is, I can laugh with a lot of people. Like, that's never a problem, right?
Sure.
Can I cry with you?
Yeah.
Right? Can I cry with you? But it goes more than that. When I mess up in life, like really mess up,
Hmm.
are you still there?
Yeah. Hmm.
Right? Like, not when life hits me in the nose, when I mess up,
Yeah.
are you still there?
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, when you're going through, when you're in the thick of it, is are those people gonna not even be there, but like, are they gonna look down at you? Are they
Right.
gonna shame you? Are they gonna, are they happy that maybe you're going through it because they're jealous? All these things could be possible, or are they just going to be like put their arm around you and walk through it with you?
Right.
You know,
Right. Right. That's exactly right. And I've done stupid things my whole life. Like, that's not new to Ryan. But like,
sure,
years ago, there was yeah, I'll be very vague in this, but there was just I just messed up. I did. I just messed up, and
hmm.
it had something to do with work. And part of me is transparency. I want to always be transparent.
Yeah,
And I probably told everybody, but let's say out of the 10 people, like, I was shocked by the responses of some of the people,
hmm.
that, and I don't really care if I'm judged, but I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting the hug. Yeah,
Yeah,
hey man, I'm with you no matter what, and not don't encourage me when I'm doing something bad, like, not that, but like, but don't pile on. And so, I just think that's a good criteria, is like, when I do it wrong, which I've been known to do, are you there?
hmm.
And I think that's the difference between family and friends.
Okay,
Because my goal in all relationships is to make them family in my life, right? Because I want deep interactions. I want to be able to laugh and cry and go through life with people. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think
yep,
everyone craves that. Like, I'm a therapist. Anytime I meet someone who just doesn't have those people in their life, it's always sad,
hmm.
right? One of the first observations God makes about people in Genesis is, it's not good to be alone,
You're right.
right? So
Yep,
from the beginning, we know God created us to have these people in our lives, right?
yep,
So, you know, can I cry with you? Can I so that list is so small.
yeah,
So I'm 35, right? And what is that? 5 people?
right.
Like, is that good? Do I have more than that? Is
Yeah.
it's probably not even 5, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, it makes it hard, because let's walk through the stages. Like, when you're in high school, it feels like you have millions of friends. Like, you have people coming in your life. You're close to people. You're not, like, your friend group is probably
Yeah.
a little bit bigger. And then as you just kind of work through life, you go off to college, all your friends separate. That's a separation of friend groups, and you get new friends. And then once you kind of step out of that area of life, it's like you kind of get married or kind of go into your professional life. And then a number of friends probably get separated again. And then each stage of life, you're kind of doing that, right? Throughout your whole life. And you really just have to figure out like the ones that are throughout all the processes, which ones are the ones that are sticking around,
Right.
which ones are the ones who are loyal to you and trustworthy. And that's what is going through my mind too, is like, same thing. I have a handful of like really close people, and I'm like, how hard is it going to be in the next 30 years of my life? Like, will I get more of those?
Yeah.
Well, how hard is it going to be to cultivate 5 more deep relationships of people who I can trust in,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And then, and that's a good point. And then my question after the sorting process of who you are to me, my question is now, what is my responsibility to you?
what do you mean? In just the relationship,
Yeah,
or
like let's say you're in the family category. Well, then my responsibility to you is to die for you. Right?
sure.
Like take the bullet for you. Like
Yep.
no matter what, whatever you need, I don't care if it's money, I don't care if it's time, resources, whatever. Like if you're in the family category, it's yours. You know?
Yep.
Like there's nothing my daughter can ask for that I wouldn't give her. You know?
Right.
Like
Yep.
that's that category. I'd die for you in a second.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So then that's fairly obvious to me. What about the friend? What is my responsibility to you as a friend?
Well, to me, you know, this is an open-ended conversation. Obviously, you're the counselor here, so I should be asking you these questions. You should have all the answers to these.
Right.
But to me, the natural flow of things is people should either be moving up in these categories or moving down. So if they're in the friend category, maybe they don't have the ability to be close in relationships. Maybe they have a lot of family baggage that they're working through, or hurt in relationships, or just hard lives. We all have people like that in our lives. Maybe those people who are friends, maybe they would want to be close to you in your family category, but maybe they just don't know how to. Or maybe there's people who are like your neighbor category. Maybe they look at you and they're like, oh, I would love to be friends with him. I would love to be closer with him, but like, maybe I don't have the time. Maybe I don't have the whatever. So to me, there should always be a constant flow of moving up or moving down in categories, right? And if you're not doing anything, if you're not trying in your relationships, if you're not trying to like grow in yourself to be a better friend or a better husband or wife or whatever you're trying to do, and you're just being stagnant in life, I'm like, I probably just don't really want to be around you anyways.
Right.
So that's cool. You go
Right.
do that. That's fine.
Right.
That's your decision, but you're just not going to probably make it into my inner circle.
Right. Right. So it's moving. It's a moving target.
You could look at it like that.
It's kind of what I don't want, but like probably true.
I mean, yeah, but again, you can look at it 100 different ways, right? So to me, like, yeah, I'm the same way. I have a handful of 4 or 5 people who are my center, who are my like core, who, is my family. And I would love to invite more people into that. I would love to have relationships that go both ways, people who interact with me and try with me, but it's just not the case. Like, I may extend that offer. Maybe I see somebody, hey, I would love to be closer to that person. I can extend and try and try to do things with them. But ultimately, if they don't do it back to me, then, it kind of draws a line in the sand.
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I think this system is about me categorizing who people are in my life. But I also think that really shouldn't change the way I treat people. obviously I'm not going to spill my guts to someone I don't trust, but like when it comes to like loving people or treating someone with respect or just being honest or all those things, like I should probably not let any sorting system change me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not really the question. It's like, so I guess that's the answer is like, that is my responsibility. My responsibility is to be honest, truthful, giving, loving, sometimes harsh, you know, despite where that person is in my life, if that makes
Right. Well, no, yeah. I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think when it comes to relationships and people in your life, like I think something that I've had to work through in my life is, I'm responsible for me. Like I can't be responsible for my wife Jess. Like I can try and do all the things with her. Like I can ask her to do things for
right.
me. Like I can ask her to, hey, these are the things that I need from you. Blah blah. But ultimately, like she, at the end of the day, she's the one who has to like make that decision to come my way. Or same thing with friends. Like I can do all the things. I can try to be close with you, but ultimately, like they have to be the ones who come to you. Like, and that's a hard pill to swallow because a lot of time it is on you. Like, you can be as close to people as you want, but like at some point in the process, like they have to do it too,
Right.
And
Right.
if it was totally based upon you, like if your friends did exactly what you wanted them to do, like your family category or your friends, like you could just pick and choose who you wanted, as your friends, but we're kind of dealing with two separate individuals,
Yeah. Yeah.
which makes it
Yeah.
harder. But
And I'm trying. You know, the point of this to me is trying to make sense of life and the world we live in. Like I'm constantly confused, and like I have to set little rules for myself or guidelines for myself for me just to make sense of things. And I
yeah,
feel like I should have been taught a lot of this as a young person. I was not. I just I picked it up, and I'm not a fast learner. I never have been. So like, I tell Jess like I went to the school of hard knocks, and like I was top of my class, you know. But in school we learned about this guy's name was Maslow, and he had this hierarchy of needs. And one thing you learn is, you know, people need um, basically you need air before you need water. You need water before you need car or whatever. You know, you
sure.
need shelter. There's this like list of things that you must have, and some are more important than others.
Yeah.
And so part of being a dad, part of being a father now is I have to put things in a hierarchy.
Hmm.
Because if in any time one anytime the order is off, my life will be dysfunctional and there will be more chaos,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So just like air is more important than shelter,
Yep.
if I put career before wife or kids,
Yeah.
right? There's dysfunction there.
Okay, let me ask you this question. So we're both Christians. So as a Christian, how do you how does this blend into it? Because I'm sure it does, right? So if you're really ranking like, hey, this is top priority, like number one all the time, and these are the things that follow that, like how much of that flows, or how does it flow with being a husband, being a father, working a career, also being a Christian? How do all these things like flow together? Because I think this is a great thing that maybe there's one person listening to this. I don't know how many people will listen to it, but it's a great thing to think about when it's like, when at the end of the day, like we have a ranking system in our life. These are the people who mean the most. Like this is the thing that means the most to me. Maybe it is God. Maybe it is you're a Christian, whatever. But there's a ranking system in our life, right? So I would, ask you, like, how does that all blend together?
Yeah. So this is so once again, anytime something is out of order, your life will be there will be dysfunction, there will be chaos, right? Okay, so for the Christian, we say, "Oh, God is number one," right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of
Sure.
easy to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
but truly, God is number one in that hierarchy, right? My
Mhm.
faith, what Jesus is calling me to do, right? That has got to be number one. I
Right.
cannot put my wife, as much as I love my wife, ahead of my faith in Jesus, right? And
Mm.
she would never want that, right?
Yeah.
But that's fairly obvious, right? We have to put God at the top, right? So I always say God, wife, kids, job, etc., right? But like,
Right. Sure.
but like I'll tell you, the controversial one is when I say no, you need to love your spouse more than you love your kids.
Mm.
That's the one where some people, especially moms with young kids, are like, "What? No, no, no. My kids are it." And it's like,
Yeah.
that's fine, and I get that, and I love my kids a lot, and I know how you got there. There will be dysfunction. There will be
Sure.
dysfunction.
Because maybe you're right. Maybe there is God up here, and then husband or wife, and then right below, there's not a gap here.
Mm-mm.
Right
No,
below is kids.
no, your spouse. It's your spouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your spouse. It's not there. It's not even. I don't mean I don't know the proximity debate, but like that's just it. It's the spouse.
Yeah.
Hey, I promise you, your kids are gonna grow up, and I hope they're awesome, right? I hope they're
Yeah.
great
Right.
kids. They might be terrible. They could be terrible,
Yeah.
but your spouse is still there,
Yep.
right? They might move away, and you might see them once a year, and oh, that's sad. And I hope not. I hope not. That's like a worst
Yeah.
fear for mine of mine.
Yep.
It's a spouse.
Yeah. For sure.
So, and I see a lot of that where that's mixed up. And I'm telling you, like, it, argue with me all you want, but you're inviting dysfunction into your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. I wasn't arguing with you with that. I don't know if you took that from that,
No.
but yeah. Yeah. No. That makes total sense. It. At the end of the day, I think what I was maybe trying to ask there was, I think sometimes people who are Christians, there's this kind of weight that comes with it, and there should be in certain aspects of your life, because if you're signing up for it, you gotta sign up for it, type of a thing. But oftentimes it's like, I'm a Christian now, and I gotta sacrifice my family, and I gotta sacrifice my wife, and I gotta sacrifice my kids to go out and do whatever. When I believe that, I think you're right, where it's like, we got to make sure our house is in order, and we can love people. I think for a long time, whenever I had my first kid, I'm like, I had a background in Young Life. I was a young life leader for a while, and I'm like, I'm so used to going and doing and trying to go and meet and build relationships with people, and now I'm not doing anything. Like, I don't feel like I'm a Christian anymore. But at the end of the day, it's like, I can still be responsible for my family and loving them, and being with them and building relationships with them, and my friends and people who are in close proximity to me. And so I think this is great conversation. It blends us together. We've been going for 35 minutes almost. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this. I have a few closing questions that I would love to ask you, but
Let's spitfire the questions. Let's try to knock it out in a few minutes.
Okay, well, let's just. I'll skip to you're out of high school type of an age. So you go into Young Life. You do Young Life staff for X amount of years. I can't really remember how long you were on Young Life staff. 8 years, and then you decide to go into counseling. But when you were in college as well, you studied. You had a theology degree, right?
Yeah.
A bachelor's in theology. Yep. So what kind of like led you to the end of that? Maybe go for 2 minutes if you can. of just kind of like you went from theology to young life to counseling, and now you're a director of pretty much just counseling at a university. Like, what kind of led you in that? Did you have interest in it? Did you not? Like, what do you think kind of flowed into that direction?
Yeah. So I was not a good student. And honestly, I've never been a good student. I was a C student in high school. I was pretty much a C student through college until I went and got my master's, in which you couldn't get C's or you couldn't get through the program. So
Right.
so I look back in my life, and it is not a straight line. It's very, very windy, and honestly, and if I was being honest, some people would say like, I wouldn't change anything, or it would change who I am. I'm like, no, I could do without that. I could do without that. I could do without that. Like, there's plenty of things that I wish I had left out, and the reality is, I have to learn the hard way for some reason. I feel like God tries to teach me in other ways, and it never makes it through. And so I don't know, man. Like, maybe when I'm old, I can look back and be like, wow, God, I see it all. And it's like, I don't see it at all. I am very confused on the route we took to get here. Not saying I'm not thankful. I am very thankful, right? For especially Jess, and I love my kids and like all those things. And I honestly, I love my career now, which I hadn't been able to say for a long time. I don't know. I can't make sense of it all. I would love to be like hey guys, don't give up, encourage. It's like, no, I gave up a lot, and there was a lot of nights that like I was just crying. I was just sad because like I didn't have the roadmap, and I wish I had the roadmap. And I still don't have the roadmap. But I don't know. Like I can't make sense of it all. I think I'm in a healthy, good spot with life and kids and family and job, but like, for the folks at home, like I would never encourage anyone to follow my path ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the whole point of this podcast. I created this because I just love hearing people's stories, how they became who they are and how they got in the positions they are today. And a lot of the stories that I've heard, just in life in general, like people who I thought were really interesting and are in interesting positions, there's a wondering period, the whole name for this podcast, the rugged horizon, where it's like, you're just in life. It feels like sometimes you're just laying a brick at a time. And, oftentimes we want the brick wall immediately, but a lot of the times you're just laying brick, you're just brick by brick. You're just laying it down.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, laying brick is hard work. A lot of your life is going to be hard work.
That's a good point.
So Ryan, thank you so much for, you had a lot of great conversation and questions and thoughts on here today that honestly I didn't even know was coming. So I'm glad we had good conversation. 2 follow-up questions. They can be quick, real easy questions. So what's one thing, maybe it's a book, somebody to listen to, maybe somebody who is impactful for you that people could reach out to, or something like for the people who are in this journey, this rugged horizon, what's something that you would recommend for those people,
I don't know if this is for everyone. I actually have my devotional here. Experiencing God. A guy named Henry Blackberry wrote this with another member of his family. I've been writing in this same journal for about 13 years.
Oh, wow.
And every year I get the same book. It's not like the same book, but I have a stack of them. It's the same thing. And every day I'll write and I'm trying to make sense of life, and I'm trying to pray and do all the things. And it has great stuff. But why I like it is I can let's say 8 years ago, this day, I can go back and I can look at my life and see what I was thinking at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people can do that. So that speaks to just being intentional with yourself and trying to understand yourself and trying to understand God. So I would say slow down and try to at least understand God and understand yourself. That's all I got.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, you actually, got me into that devotional as well, and I went through it multiple years doing the same thing, and it was very helpful to kind of walk through something consistently.
Yeah.
If you're just doing it once a month, that's not going to help. But if you're consistently doing it, that's something that is very helpful. And putting your thoughts on paper is something that's really cool. Last question: who would you recommend for me to try to go out and get to be on the Rugged Horizon podcast?
Oh my gosh, I would recommend an older gentleman.
Okay.
Very interesting fellow. He's my grandfather. His name is Taylor McCluskey.
Okay. I'm writing this down.
He has cycled across the United States twice. And he will tell you stories. He's a storyteller. You must get him on.
Okay.
You must get
Well, I wonder if he's still using Firefox browser.
He's like 85 years old, so like you'll have to be really creative.
I might have to drive up to him just to have a conversation.
Dude, I'll set you up with him. He will be great.
Okay, cool. Well, Ryan, thanks for being on the podcast, everyone. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Talk to you soon.